everybody. And I'm Dwight Curtis, your Parks and Recreation Director, and this is a really special time for us to finally get this thing going. As everybody knows, I mean, this took forever, but we finally got it going, and it's complete. And so with that, I'm going to go ahead and cut my stuff short, turn this over to Mayor Bill Lambert, and we'll get this going. Welcome.
Thank you, Dwight, and good morning, everybody. On this morning, I got a first disclosure. This will be our last dedication this year. We're not going to drag anybody else out on a cool day, but it is pretty neat because it's sunny out. It is a little bit brisk, but I told Dwight and others we're kind of pushing the envelope to go farther into the year on this, so more dedications will come up next year. Well, good. Again, good morning, and I want to talk a little bit about the history of Blackbird Station. This was originally 2008 is when it was discussed and came up with the Moscow City Council. I was on a council at that time. And it was something that was a planned thing. We had all kinds of different ideas about doing things with groups of people and stuff, but this is the end result. And this was a community effort, ladies and gentlemen, by many different individuals and organizations that contributed towards this project. And that's what makes it a big deal. And I see all the different folks out here. We got people from Lake Canyon Trail, so other city councilors out here as well, just general populace, and a bunch of those that did contribute to this fine day and this fine station. The Blackbird reference, this station, the name is in the honor of former City Moscow Council President John Dickinson, who was a friend of mine, and as noted recently by Moscow citizen and former Mayor Nancy Cheney, when suggesting the name reference, Dr. Dickinson lived in the area and was a generous supporter of the Latah Trail. Many of John's friends associate him with blackbirds as a kind of totem animal and reoccurring theme in our remembrances. Blackbirds, particularly red-winged blackbirds, are common at that marshy area along Paradise Path between Blaine and Alturas Drive. And one thing I want to say about John Dickinson, because he was the president of the council and I was on there at that time, and John was one of those guys. I knew him for many years before that because one of his sons and my son played soccer many years ago. And of course, they're grown adults with their own children now. But John was a very fair guy. And I can remember one instance with John. And one of the things I really liked about him is we had a critical decision to make at a council meeting one night. And John was the chair of the lead as the president of the council, and he made this statement. He said one person was missing and we needed all 6 councilors to weigh in on it because it was too important of a topic to let go, even though and John and I had complete opposite points of view on what was to be done and what that decision ended up being. But to John's credit, he could have very well won that night with 3 votes against 2, but that was the kind of guy he was. It was too important for the overall community for just 5 councilors to make it, and that's something I've always respected John Dickinson about, and that's a big deal. And so I wanted to share that story with the ladies and gentlemen, because some people here do not know who John really was, but a bunch of us of course do. And now I'll continue on. This was actual Blackbird Crossing was the name originally chosen for this site, but due to the high number of individuals crossing the highway here and having access to the trail back and forth, it was decided to change the name to Blackbird Station in an effort to discourage any unsafe crossings here. Now that makes sense, ladies and gentlemen. This project was made due in large part, as I said earlier, about a bunch of community member donations, which we're going to talk about. And the City of Moscow extends its sincere thanks to those donors. And this includes, I know we missed some folks on here, so please don't take that personal if there's something you did, because we had so many people that contributed to this. Bricks, which are over here, we got Tracy Lee, Kelly Gregory, John Klinger, Marilyn Franklin, Terry Grind, Thomas Gorman, Eric Larson, and the University of Idaho Learning Center. Trees, we got Robert and Marilyn Heckendorn. Benches, these lovely 4 benches here, Cheryl Mock, Robert and Marilyn Heckendorn, Nancy Cheney and Gary Bryan, and Bob and Sally Voorhees. drinking fountain right behind me here, Latah County Trail Foundation. General donations, just out of the general purpose of donating this. Mrs. E. Palmer, Stu and Sue Scott, who are here with us, of course, today. Palouse Roadrunners, S.M. Ghazafar, Ph.D., known by those of us that love him as Ghazi. Known him for decades. He lives clean across the country now. Daniel Cordon and Carrie Dickinson. And with that, the point about this is, several years ago, this has been in the process for a decade that we all know of. And there was funding that had been donated by individuals. And so a couple of years ago, we came up with the idea to start to use that money to start doing it, because we had a land there and we did nothing with it. And so that was the start of getting this thing leveled off, getting it going before we could get the rest of it. And a special thank you to the current council for seeing it fit to put the rest of this into the budget to make it happen. Now, ladies and gentlemen, this is absolutely beautiful, but the whole idea about this is a community project. So all of us can take a little bit of ownership with this, and that's kind of the neat thing, and that's the spirit that we try to do with our parks and with things like this. So it's about our community, about all of us, and that's what makes it really neat. And of course, a shout out to our crew at Parks and Rec, the group that constantly works and puts these things together for us and does a wonderful job, led by Dwight Curtis. Anyway, thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for being here. Thank you for braving the weather. Even though it's clear, it's a little bit brisk out. And this, I promise, will be the last one this year, and we'll start back over in 2019. Thank you very much, and have a wonderful weekend.
Okay, thank you, Mayor Lambert. And I'm going to turn this over to our Assistant Parks and Rec Director, David Schott.
Thank you, Dwight. Well, good morning. Very nice November morning. We don't have snow and rain, so I'm very happy to see that. So I'd like to take this opportunity to thank Mayor Lambert and City Council for their support on this project. City leadership, including Dwight Curtis, our Parks and Recreation Director. Without that support, we'd have a hard time getting this completed. So I'd also like to thank our Moscow Pathways Commission. If you could all raise your hands. Hey. Round of applause, thank you. And of course our gracious donors. We had over $12,000 in donations for this project. So round of applause for our donors as well. Thank you. And of course, we began construction on this. I'm doing some project highlights. Last summer, our park staff got started with the earthwork, site work, and poured the concrete pad. That was all in-house. This summer, we worked on the amenities. So we've got the sign, the bricks, the benches, the trash can, the drinking fountain. One of the real difficult parts was getting water to the drinking fountain all the way from Alturas Parkway over here. Of course, we had to kind of wrestle with a fiber optic line. So our parks crews did this project completely in-house, and I'd like to recognize them. Calvin Macy, our parks supervisor, if you could raise your hand, Calvin. Travis Seltenreich and Nathan Posnick. And of course Roy Brennenmauer and Scott Carlson, who couldn't make it today. So the project's largely completed. There's one more outstanding item that still needs to be completed. There's supposed to be an art piece in the middle here, and I'm sure that will come in the years to come. So with that, I'd also like to thank our folks with Recreation that set up this dedication, Kalisa Owens and Greg Morrison, Kristen Graham. And with that, this has just been a project that's been a long time coming, and I'm really tickled pink that we were able to complete that this year with a bunch of support throughout our community. So with that, I'll turn it over to Councilor Brandy Sullivan with our Moscow City Council.
Thank you, David. I am honored to have been asked to speak for Nancy Cheney on her behalf because she can't be here today. And as many of you know, Nancy was the mayor of Moscow from 2006 to 2014. She was a city council member from 2004 to 2006, a friend of John Dickinson, the founding member of Palouse Roadrunners, and Latah Trail Foundation intern and board member from 2000 to 2016. So I will read a statement that she prepared for the event. Greetings, friends of the Blackbird Station. Today's grand opening has been many years in the making, and I'm delighted that the project has come to fruition. Regrettably, due to a long-planned family gathering in Vancouver, I'm unable to join you today. This project has its roots in a Latah Trail Foundation effort from 2001, when I was an intern there. It seemed sensible to develop an iconic shared trailhead linking the Latah Trail with Moscow's Paradise Path, connecting it to the Chipman Trail and points west. For a variety of reasons, that project wasn't realized as initially conceived, but after Council President John Dickinson's untimely passing in 2007, it seemed right to revive it as a memorial to him, as well as a practical community benefit. John would have loved that this project has grown through private contributions from so many people to recognize so many others besides himself. The inclusive process and end result comport with John's passion for bringing community members together. The city has acknowledged this project as a public good. It includes a more obvious meeting place with trees, benches, bike racks, wayfinding information, drinking water for people and dogs, and an identifiable sense of place. How many long-timers still arrange to meet their walking, running, and cycling friends at Tinyman's? For those who are inspired to add additional improvements to this site, I encourage you to contact the Parks Department to find out how. To all who persisted in getting this done, to all who embrace inclusive community building, and to all of you in attendance today, thank you. From Nancy Cheney. And now, next, I'm pleased to introduce Jonathan Graydon, who is the chair of the Moscow Pathways Commission, which promotes and works to improve the path system in and around Moscow, and which has been an ardent supporter of Blackbird Station, which I've had the privilege to be the council liaison to the Pathways Commission. It's a wonderful, hard-working group. So, John.
Thank you, Brandy. I know it's a little cold out, so I won't take much time at all, but I'm really glad to see a lot of my fellow cyclists and walkers and everybody out here. This is super awesome. I solely bike and walk around, and so I'm really looking forward to using this station both locally and when I head out to Troy on the trail, fill up my water bottle, come back, take a break. I've even had the privilege of using the benches here before it officially opened. One night I couldn't sleep and decided to just go for a walk. Sat here on the bench under a full moon, watch rising over Paradise Ridge. Super beautiful sight. Anyway, I, unlike many of you, never had the chance to meet John Dickinson. I came here in 2011, 4 years after he passed. However, two recently departed pillars of the community were influential in encouraging me in public service. Linda Paul, as many of you know, very vibrant, forceful personality that she was, encouraged me to serve on the then Paradise Path Task Force, and I couldn't really say no, and it was a good opportunity. I served under Margaret Littlejohn, who was the chair, and shortly thereafter, right as we became a full-fledged commission, she passed away from cancer. Margaret's passion was aesthetic and practical improvements to the pathway system, such as this, such as benches and trees along the path. And so I'm really grateful for the opportunity to keep her legacy going through such things as this. And next year we will be doing a grand opening on the underpass project, just a few blocks down this way, as well as more improvements to the pathway and trail system. So all of that said, I am really grateful to city staff, all the donors, everybody here, and really glad that this has finally come to fruition. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And next we've got Mr. Tom Lamar, former City Council member and current Latah County Commissioner, for a few comments.
Thanks, Dwight. I just wanted to just say that while I did not have the pleasure of working with John Dickinson on the Moscow City Council, I came on 6 months after he passed. My daughter, Tava Hopper, lived with John over in the cottages, and I just wanted to say that the significance of Blackbird for John was that he taught him, he didn't know how to play the guitar, but he taught himself Blackbird by the Beatles shortly before he passed, and he loved that song, and he played it a lot. And I had the pleasure of having that song played later at my wedding, and it was that's a very significant song for John, and I wanted to make sure that all of you have Blackbird by the Beatles as an earworm in your ears all day today, because that's an important part. And I hope that when the art piece gets put in here, that it resembles John Dickinson playing the guitar, because that would be a perfect tribute. Thank you.
All right, well, that concludes our comments, and now we're going to have a ribbon cutting ceremony, and we'll do a countdown when we're all set. And we need everybody's participation in this countdown.
Now wait a second before we count down. I love scissors. And nobody in my life's ever let me give him a haircut. I will share that too.
Okay, let's start at 3. Everybody, 3, 2, 1. Yay! We are officially open. And happy Thanksgiving to everybody, and thank you for coming. Lots of refreshments still out here. Please partake and enjoy this